The best tennis players of 2025: Alcaraz, Sabalenka, Sinner, and more. The 2025 ATP season was defined almost exclusively by two men and their rivalry, Alcaraz and Sinner. And while those two set themselves apart from everyone else, more points separate number 2 Sinner from number 3 Alexander Zverev, 6,340, than distance Zverev from the 1,000th ranked player, 5,145 in the world. Very little differentiated the big two from one another. Alcaraz won the French Open and the US Open and ended the year at number 1 for the second time in his career, and Sinner was victorious at the Australian Open and Wimbledon and finished the year with a title at the ATP Finals for the second consecutive season. In fact, the margin was so minuscule, Evert said she simply couldn't pick between them and declared it to be a tie. "I don't know how you could pick one," she said. But Querrey and Shriver and this writer felt differently and ultimately gave the ever-so-slight edge to Alcaraz, who won 6 other titles this year, including 3 at Masters 1000 events. Alcaraz, who also leads the career head-to-head, defeated Sinner in 4 of their 6 meetings in 2025. "I was going to award co-ATP Players of the Year to both Sinner and Alcaraz, but I feel Sinner missing some months because of the suspension and not finishing as the year-end number 1 pushed the scales towards Alcaraz," said Shriver. No matter if you believe Alcaraz or Sinner deserves this completely arbitrary distinction, one thing is for sure: they're the best players in the world and should continue their collective brilliance in 2026. Even their top-ranked peers seem to have accepted that. They've played at an incredibly high level for an extended period of time. World number 7 Alex de Minaur said about Sinner and Alcaraz ahead of his semi-final match against Sinner at the ATP Finals. "We're just going to keep on getting better and wait for opportunity. At least I'm hoping they're not going to show up every single day of the year, right?" WTA Player of the Year, Aryna Sabalenka. While there was little drama on the ATP side, at least in narrowing it down to 2, there were a handful of women who were considered for the title this year. Not only were the majors won by 4 different players, Elena Rybakina closed out the year with the title at the WTA Finals, and others won multiple 1,000-level tournaments and contended at slams. But still, even with the equality at the top of the WTA, one woman was slightly ahead of the rest of the pack and was the unanimous pick for this award. Of course, that was world number 1 Sabalenka, who held the top ranking all season long. She won the US Open, becoming the first woman since Serena Williams over a decade ago to repeat as champion, and also made it to the Australian and French Open finals and to the Wimbledon semi-final. Not to mention, she won 3 other titles on the year, including 2 at the 1,000 level, and played in a total of 9 finals. If Sabalenka was playing in a tournament, she was not just a contender, but a favorite for the title. Per Shriver, for all of those reasons, she is the clear player of the year. And even her opponents heaped on the praise this year. Obviously, she's number 1 and is fully capable of playing incredible tennis, like she did today, Anisimova said after the US Open final. "I give her all the credit for that. I admire her enormously. She works hard, and that's why she's here." Long-awaited breakthrough moment, Madison Keys, Australian Open. A prodigious talent who turned pro as a 14-year-old, for much of the early portion of her career, it seemed inevitable Keys would win a major title. And she came close. She reached her first Slam semifinal in 2015 and was the runner-up at the 2017 US Open. But despite winning 9 WTA titles and being a top 20 mainstay, she was unable to win when it mattered most. Until this year, that is. Nearing her 30th birthday, Keys put together a fearless run for the ages at the Australian Open, defeating 5-seeded players, including number 2 ranked Swiatek in the semi-finals and number 1 ranked Sabalenka in the final. In the end, Keys hoisted her first major trophy following a close 3-set thriller, almost 16 years after turning pro, and a decade after reaching her first semi. Match of the year, Alcaraz vs. Sinner, French Open final. Was this even in doubt? The first ever major final between the two burgeoning rivals clocked in at 5 hours and 29 minutes, making it the longest French Open final in history and the second longest at a major. It also featured one of the most unbelievable comebacks of all time. Sinner, Playing in just his second tournament back after serving his 3-month suspension, won the marathon first game in 12 minutes, and then largely cruised as he won the first 2 sets. With Sinner looking well on his way to his 4th Slam title and first at Roland Garros, Alcaraz had other ideas. That's when the magic happened. Raising his level and feeding off the raucous crowd, Alcaraz forced a 4th set and then fought off 3 championship points on his way to a decider. Momentum continued to shift in the final set, with the two trading one highlight-worthy point after another, before Alcaraz won in a tiebreak for the 4-6, 6-7, 4, 6-4, 7-6, 3, 7-6, 10-2 final score. It marked the second straight French Open trophy for Alcaraz and his 5th major title, but more than that, it cemented the legend of the Big Two and the rivalry that looks to shape the sport for years to come. Most improbable victory. Valentin Vacherat, Shanghai. Arriving to the Masters 1000 level event ranked number 204 in the world and as the 9th alternate for the qualifying draw, the 26-year-old, who had won just one match on the ATP Tour in his career, needed a miracle just to be able to play in the tournament. But following a slew of withdrawals, Vacherat made it into qualifying and needed 3 sets in both matches there to make the main draw. Somehow he found a way, and then did the unthinkable. He defeated one-seeded player after another, including Alexander Bublik in the second round, Holger Rune in the quarterfinals, and Novak Djokovic in the semifinals. And if that wasn't enough, he then faced his cousin Arthur Rinderknech, then ranked number 40 himself and hardly considered a title contender before the tournament got underway, in the most unlikely of finals. Vacherat ultimately won the family affair and became the first Monegasque player to win an ATP title, as well as the lowest-ranked Masters champion in history. After the final, the tearful cousins embraced and shared kind words during an emotional trophy ceremony. "There has to be one loser, but I think there are 2 winners today," Vacherat said on court. "One family that won, and I think for the sport of tennis, the story is unreal." Following the fairy tale victory, which more than doubled his career earnings, Vacherat surged up the rankings. Thanks to a quarterfinal run at the Paris Masters, Vacherat ends the season ranked at number 31 and as a former unknown-turned-beloved figure in the sport.